Hello, friends. This is part 2 of my seasonal journey. I want to begin by saying that I'm doing this not for money. I want no money. I want no glory. I want no praise, for I deserve none of it. If anybody ever says that I'm doing it for money or uses my name or face to raise money because of this, then disregard it because it didn't come from me. If this speaks to you or ministers to you or touches you in any way, give God honor and glory and praise, for He is worthy. He is worthy. And I do it because I feel He has compelled me to do this and to share it with you. I want to begin by reading a verse of Scripture, Isaiah 61:3. And it says, "Provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair or heaviness." My journey actually started in May of 2007. It was a 14-year journey. At that time, we moved into the house where we currently live. A short time after that, my mother moved in with us. She was beginning to feel more and more uncomfortable and safe where she was at, so we asked her to move in, and she did. In May of this year, 2021, my mother moved out of our home eternally. She passed away and went to be in heaven. She's not lost. I know where she is. The pain of her loss is still here, but God deserves all honor and glory and praise. It was not an easy journey for her or for us. There's always an adjustment when you have that type of situation, but we came through it. But for me, about 2 years ago, things took a turn. I don't lay the blame on anybody except the fact that I allowed myself to get more weighted down and heavier and stressed and under a lot of pressure. I allowed myself to start carrying a burden that was heavier than I could carry. I didn't feel like I could share it with anybody. I didn't feel like that anyone would truly understand. Even though there were those that did try, it was more of an internal burden that I carried. The weight became harder and harder. The situation became more and more difficult. And I found myself many times saying, "Lord, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore." And there were times when I said, "Lord, you're going to have to do it through me because I don't have the strength anymore. I just can't." It had become more responsibility, and I had begun to look at things more in the eyes of what I had lost, I felt like, than what I was actually dealing with. And then a few months after that, another symptom started to occur. I started having nightmares at night. And I'm talking about very vivid nightmares that woke me up shaken, troubled, nervous, crying. I mean, it got to the place to where I was almost afraid to go to sleep at night because the nightmares were getting more and more vivid. And it would be so bad that Troy would even wake up. And there were times when I would just be literally shaking and crying from these nightmares. And that went on for weeks and a few months. And at one point, I began to pray. And I remember laying in bed one night praying, thinking, "Lord, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I am at a point where there's no place to go, I feel like." And these nightmares. I don't know what they mean. I don't know why they're there. These figures that I'm seeing, these images that I'm seeing, these things that look so real I could almost touch them. And even at points where I was actually battling physically in the bed and sometimes calling out and crying out in my sleep. And I said, Lord, I just don't know what to do. Tell me what I'm supposed to do. And I went off to sleep. That night I did have a dream. But this time it wasn't a frightening dream. It didn't scare me. In my dream I was lying in bed, and up above me was a blanket, a yellow blanket. And immediately I woke up. I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. It didn't bother me. But immediately I felt in my spirit the Lord saying, Debbie, I got you covered. I got you covered. Well, I spent the next few weeks trying to figure out, what is he trying to tell me? What are you trying to say, Lord? And in that, I saw a teaching on this verse of scripture that I read. And basically what it means is that ashes in the Bible were what people threw on them when they were grieving and they were under tremendous pain and trouble. And they would take the ashes and just throw on them because they were so burdened. But God was saying, I'm going to give you those ashes you think you have, those ashes that you feel like your life has fallen apart and there's no resemblance of it again. I'm going to give you beauty for it. That beauty is the beauty of a bride. In a Jewish wedding, a bride would walk under a canopy of her father's prayer shawl. And there she would be wed to her husband. And when she walked out from under her father's covering, she walked under the covering of her husband. When she walked out from under the protection and care of her father, she walked under the protection and care of her husband. And God was telling me, Debbie, I got you covered. I'm caring for you and I'm taking care of you. Now, at that point, that burden lifted. It wasn't completely gone, but the heaviness and the weight lifted. Not knowing that that was just a prelude of things I was fixing to encounter in the months to come. But God gave me some relief. God assured me he was taking care of me. God assured me that even when I did not feel like it and I felt weighted down, that he was covering me and he was going to turn my ashes into beauty. And I'm here to tell you he did. I'm here to tell you that this first step for me, as I was exiting out of this journey, and the last year of my journey is where I learned the most. That if that's how you feel, if you feel your life has just fallen apart and it's left in nothing but ashes, God can give you beauty for ashes. He can cover you, but you have to turn to him. You have to rely on him. And that's what I had to do. Now, there were still things that I tried to do on my own after that, but the journey would take another turn in just a few months. But this was my first step. God was bringing me out of the grief, out of the burden, out of the trouble, out of the worry, out of the stress, because he was sending me to the end of my journey. That 14-year journey that I had taken in caring for my mother. And again, I want to say, I didn't do it alone. I never did. I have family and they were all there as well. But this was the personal journey God took me through. I hope this blesses you. God bless you until next time when we do part 3.